This video is sponsored by my Discord server. Click the link in the description below to join the Raptorverse today. Hey, what's going on, you guys, and welcome back to That's a Wrap. My name is the Raptor, and we have 3 more lambs to the slaughter. I am very excited. First up, we have Metal Potato. You'll recognize him from the Blazing 8 stream, and you may even see him in an upcoming video. He's been a mod for a little while. How are you doing, Metal?
I am doing great right now, even though it's just the morning.
It's just the morning, yes. Well, for me, it's the afternoon. Time zones are cool that way. But yeah, glad to have you here. Next up, we have one of the newest additions to the mod team, Blake, the Monkey Enjoyer. Very excited to have him here. How are you doing?
I'm doing A-okay. It's been just chill over here, and I have been having to entertain the cats. So,
oh, yeah?
That's time zones.
Right, yeah. Okay, great. And last but not least, we have Soul. How are you?
Hi, I'm just a soul.
Yes, just a random soul floating in the server. But yeah, this is our podcast that we do. That's a wrap. For those of you guys that are new, this is the 3rd episode. The first one we talked about season 11 predictions, and the second one we talked about most wanted matchup ideas. For this episode, we're doing something a little different, especially in light of the Rooster Teeth situation and Death Battle's uncertain future, because a lot of those topics involve future prospects, and because we don't know what's going to happen, that feels a little awkward to do these days, and we don't want any podcast episodes from here on out to be in vain. So instead, we're going to be talking about favorite death battles that have already happened. The original idea was going to be favorite and least favorite episodes, but again, because of this whole Rooster Teeth situation, we wanted to be a little more positive, so I thought just sticking with favorite episodes and favorite seasons in general would be a much better idea. We might do least favorite some other time in the future if I'm feeling nasty. We'll see. But today, we're going to be going season by season, and then at the very end, we're going to be talking about our favorite episodes in general, if there's enough time. But we want to be thorough. We want to talk about the show as a whole. Are you guys ready?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we start, I want to let everyone know that me and Soul has watched every episode beforehand.
Was it both you and Soul?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I was watching with him for most of it. I missed out on kind of on seasons 2 and 3 because I had to go, but literally when he restarted the stream in the morning, I was supposed to go to sleep, but I saw that he was streaming and I just couldn't help myself. I just started watching it was season 5, and I should have went to sleep, but I just rewatched all the episodes with him.
You cannot imagine how dead I was inside after the whole stream. My mind needed a break for an entire hour because I could not stop thinking of Death Battle episodes.
Well, guess what? Now you'll be talking about them for another hour. So cool. Yeah, but no, that is some great dedication. I love to see that. But yeah, we can start with season 1, I suppose. I don't know how much we really have to talk about this. There are definitely some episodes I really like from season 1, at least relative to the rest of them, because it doesn't have to be that, we're talking about the episodes that we like more than every other episode that we don't bring up. It's just, right now, what are your favorites of each individual season? So, Metal, we'll start with you. What are your favorite episodes from the very beginning of the series?
Alright, from the very beginning of the series, I'm going to talk about 3 of them.
Sure.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Alright, number 1 would definitely have to be Spider-Man versus Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I love the choreography for that. I love how they created characters well. I love how they analyzed it, if I can recall.
Yeah.
It was a great episode, Jim.
No, I definitely agree that it's a great episode for its time. If Death Battle were to make an episode of that quality these days, then it would definitely stand out and people would hate it. But, for an episode like that of that time, I think they went into a lot of good detail. I think that, they looked at the characters in very fair ways, especially for what Death Battle is. So that one definitely stands out to me for season 1, yeah.
Now, the second one, definitely Goku VS Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am a normal. And then the last one, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Battle Royale.
That's one of your favorites?
Because they treated Mikey well.
Yeah, if they did, that might be a good episode. Yeah, I remember Ben Singer has this really interesting quote where he talks about how Wiz and Boomstick at the beginning were meant to be hated characters. Like, you're supposed to watch them and, like, not necessarily disagree with them, but, like, you know, not like how smug they are and, you know, kind of like their personalities and all that. And nowadays that's so weird to think about, because I just think of Wiz and Boomstick as likable characters, but to think that that was the original idea and that might have contributed to them just shitting all over Mikey for, like, no reason. Like, that is so weird to think about, and I'm really happy they've moved past that. Blake, let's move to you. Do you have any overlapping thoughts or any other episodes from season 1 you really like?
So, as far as, like, my favorite from season 1, Metal has definitely already stolen the show for that one with Batman vs. Spider-Man for a lot of the same reasons.
Okay.
I don't even necessarily know that it would be, like, I mean, obviously it would be objectively a less quality episode in today's standards. But as far as the speed and choreography goes, I still hold it as, like, among the better ones in general. Especially just because we don't get a lot of Spider episodes that, in my opinion, play off of that super well.
I gotcha.
Just because the other Spider episodes we have gotten, they've played off of different aspects of them as well. But I feel like this one just handles the speed the best in terms of that.
Gotcha. No, I definitely have a Spider episode that I want to bring up a little later, but we won't get to that yet. And Soul, any other thoughts about favorite season 1 episodes?
Yeah, like these two have already spoken. Like, pretty much what my most favorites are. The quality of season 1 isn't that great. Like, there are the few standout episodes that pretty much everyone likes. Like Goku vs Superman. That's my favorite of season 1. The choreography is amazing. It's very special to me and probably to a lot of many people. I also really like Batman vs Spider-Man. I still think that might be the best Batman episode. I'll mention 2 others that these 2 haven't said. I also really like Mario vs Sonic. The fight is just really, I think the fight is really special to me, and it just shoots way more powers than than the second one has.
Yeah, the remake, or so to speak.
Yeah, the remake. So yeah, I do like Mario vs Sonic, and the last one I'll say is Link vs Cloud, the first 3D fight of the entire show. I started watching that battle really early on, and like I have not really seen that many animations before, so watching it for like the first time was pretty special to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, you definitely got to give props for the first 3D episode they ever did. I know Ben wasn't even expecting that. Like, I think the animator, Jordan Lange, if that's how you pronounce it, he was the animator for a while after Ben stopped, and Jordan just gave Ben a 3D animated fight without Ben even knowing, which is so funny to me. It's like, he was expecting a sprite fight between them, and he got a 3D fight, and he loved it, and he was like, holy crap, how did you do this? So I think that's great. You know, that's a cool origin story for the 3D episodes. And yeah, for me, just to give some quick thoughts, I'm really loving the Batman versus Spider-Man love. I was not expecting that everyone was gonna want to bring that one up, but I definitely like that. I would personally say that Batman versus Iron Man is the best episode in terms of production quality, but for nostalgia alone, Batman versus Spider-Man is my favorite Batman episode, I can definitely say. And yeah, Goku versus Superman is just on another level compared to the other episodes. You can't not bring it up. Even if you have some specific issues with it, you can't not bring it up. I'm happy someone brought up Mario versus Sonic. I definitely like that one. I like the progression of that one. I like the voice acting in Vegeta versus Shadow. I think that one's a lot of fun, just for like the Team 4-star voice acting and Takahata 101. I think that's really funny. And also Thor versus Raiden, because that one had like a 3D background and like a lot of cool camera angles. That one was like kind of a bit of a jump in the cinematography, so to speak, of these episodes. So I definitely wanted to bring that one up. But now moving on to season 2, this is a big season. There's probably a lot of different standouts for a lot of people. I think Blake, we'll start with you this time, kind of switch up the order so everyone has an opportunity to speak first. Blake, do you have any standouts for this monster of a season?
I came down to about 2 or 3 that just were big highlights.
Sure.
One of them is Tony versus Lex, Iron Man versus Lex Luthor, just because that's a staple fight in my opinion. Like, it's got escalation, it goes super hard inside, it's got like the dialogue between the two. Like, there are several episodes that definitely like could do better in terms of like the bantery kind of stuff. This one just feels like it's Tony Stark meeting Lex Luthor in the best way possible for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Solid Snake versus Sam Fisher is another like major one for a lot of. That one just straight up feels like a crossover. That one like jumps, in my opinion, past just being these two characters fighting.
That is more than just a death battle. That is like a true meetup between them.
there are a good bunch of good sprite fights, but those two are definitely my standouts just in general.
Okay, cool. Soul, how about you? Any season 2 episodes that really stand out to you?
I mean, there are a bunch. There are many 3D fights that I really like. That I still like. Some are still in like my top 10 or even top 20. One is Deadpool versus Deathstroke. I think one of my favorites right now is like Wolverine versus Raiden. Like, just mainly the fight, and like I didn't know much about Raiden, but the whole fight was just completely like an unstoppable force versus like immovable object. And what sells me with this is just the kill at the very end. I could not imagine that Wolverine. I could not imagine that Wolverine just dying at all, and so when his head got sliced, I was in complete and utter shock.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my god, how did that even? How does that even happen?
I know, or how they even animate it too. Like the amount of work that would have had to go in just those few seconds, let alone the rest of the animation, is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. There are a few other 3D fights that I also really like. I'll say like one sprite fight that I really still enjoy today is Hercule Sane versus Dante VS.
Yeah.
The whole episode was just fun. I didn't know either characters, and it was very goofy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun that way. And Metal, any last words? Or I guess I'll have the last words, but any more words for season 2?
Well, they basically said everything, so I can't really add much. Okay, I'll just mention the ones I do like, and then I'll mention one that they haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
Iron Man versus Lex Luthor is still my #1 favorite death battle of all time.
Wow.
I definitely like most of the 3D battles here, except for Goku VS Superman 2, which that one could go, F itself.
Well, the animation's good.
It is good, but it didn't need to exist.
No, it didn't.
Kirby versus Majin Buu, I really love that one. And also, I love Wolverine versus Raiden. The one that I like the most that they haven't mentioned yet, and it was a personal reason for me, Mega Man versus Astro Boy. It's because Astro Boy was my first anime. And when I heard about they were doing this episode, I'm like, ooh, interesting. And I really liked the episode.
Nice.
For that reason.
Oh yeah. Like obviously, even if I didn't love the matchup as much, like Stitch versus Rocket would have caught my attention, just for the fact that like Stitch and Rocket were in it, even if I wasn't thinking about them from like a versus perspective. So I definitely get that. But yeah, until Kirby versus Boo was mentioned, I thought I was gonna have something else to say. But no, like you guys have literally brought up everything I wanted to bring up. Season 2 really is like the nostalgia season for me. Even if you don't think it's the best compared to like some of the recent stuff, like I still think seasons 8, 9, and 10 are like the best seasons of Death Battle. For me, that's just the way it is. But season 2 is like the nostalgia season, and it still has some episodes that hold up today. Like especially Torian's 3D animation. Like it's crazy. Wolverine vs. Raiden was like my favorite episode for a while. I don't know if I'd say that today, especially with some of the newer stuff, but for a while I loved Wolverine vs. Raiden so much, especially since my brother and I were really excited for that one. And again, at the time, I didn't know that much about Raiden, but my brother loved Wolverine, and I liked Wolverine a lot too. And it did scar us for a little bit, but after I mentally recovered, I was able to say I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was amazing. At least the way that they analyzed it and the dynamic they put into it, I thought the presentation of all of that was very well done.
I will also just say one last thing about season 2.
Sure.
Just Chuck Norris versus Segata is also amazing.
Oh yeah, of course. That was such an event. Yeah, you can't forget about that one. Now moving on to the shortest season ever, season 3. What do you guys have to say? I think we'll start with Soul this time.
With season 3, there aren't really that many. Like there are just like a couple episodes that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my absolute favorite would be Dante versus Bayonetta. It's the season premiere, and this fight is like very amazing, very well choreographed and well animated. But like I think the characterization of both was just so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'll say right now that is definitely my favorite of season 3. I know people have issues with the analyses. I don't blame them for that. But I still liked how they talked about the characters in the analyses. And I remember watching it for the first time. I was on vacation, and I remember thinking like, wait, this thing is still going on. Like, it's such a long animation, and that they keep building it up, especially like when Dante goes into like the Devil Trigger form and kills Madama Butterfly. Like, I was like, holy crap, like this just keeps getting better and better in terms of just the animation itself. So no, I definitely hear you there.
The other fight that I really liked is Hulk versus Doomsday. I really like the 3D fights of the early seasons when Torian was animating. like his animations are just super crisp. I still enjoy them today. There's still makes these death battles like among my favorites of all time.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of the 3D stuff from the early days really does hold up, which is crazy. Metal, anything from season 3 you really like?
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now because I think we're all thinking the same thing. Season 3 didn't have a lot of good sprite fights.
It's the worst season, in my opinion. Yeah.
It is the worst season in my opinion as well. I'll mention the 3D battle, which Soul already mentioned, which was Hulk versus Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed most of the 3D battles, but Hulk versus Doomsday was the best one in my opinion, and also had one of the most memorable deaths in death battle history.
Blake, season 3, anything else? Anything you want to reinforce?
Something that nobody has mentioned yet that I think is also two really, are very much worth. One of them is Joker versus Sweet Tooth, just for the fact that, like, that one was less of a fight in the traditional sense, but, like, it was every bit a fight in the Joker sense.
Yep.
That he's looking for, like, the window he just needs.
Absolutely.
And because of that, we just get to have an excuse to have all sorts of just crazy shit just going on, like, through the vehicles, only for Joker to be able to play his Joker stuff whenever he wants to do it, because he's kind of got control over the fight.
Oh yeah, no, they nailed that aspect of it for sure.
Something that I definitely think was like a highlight of the season for a couple of reasons was Ratchet and Clank versus Jak and
Damn,
Daxter.
I really have to stop going last because you just brought up the 2 episodes I was planning on bringing up. Okay, we'll see about that. But anyway, no, yes, talk about Ratchet and Clank versus Jak and Daxter, please.
So I think the main draw, by this point in time, we hadn't had a lot of 3D video game fights, if any at all. Obviously, Pokemon Digimon happened, we had the cutesy characters, stuff like that. Not only that, these were platformer characters. These were like the Scrimblow, Bimblow, whatever you want to call it, kind of characters, the cartoony guys, but in a 3D fight that's genuinely really well animated with a lot of action in it. Normally, when they've gone for characters, even some characters that have had 3D models, they've usually opted for the sprite fights up until this point, but nowadays, I'm firmly of the belief that they were like the building blocks for, like, say, when Crash came in later, or like when some other 3D animated shorter characters, smaller characters popped in. Very charming for that aspect alone to me.
Yeah, you guys have brought up everything. The 4 that I wanted to bring up were Dante Bayonetta, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, Joker versus Sweet Tooth, and Hulk versus Doomsday. That's pretty much it. And usually at this point I would see if I could think of anything else I wanted to say, but, like, honestly, Season 3 doesn't stand out to me so much. Again, the 3D fights really, really hammer it home for me. I don't know. It is really short, and I don't want to say it felt like they were backtracking from Season 2, but, like, weirdly enough, it's like there were fewer episodes, and it felt like still somehow they were being spread too thin, which is weird. I don't know if there's, like, a reason for that, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. Anyway, Season 4. This one is a little longer. This is when the 16 episodes started becoming more commonplace. And this one for me is like, I know some people really like this season. For me, I find this a very inconsistent season. There are some episodes I like a lot, and some that are either really forgettable or I just really do not care to go back to at all. But Metal, we'll start with you. What do you like from Season 4?
Okay, I'll mention only one 3D battle because I know there's another that's very popular.
Okay.
It's still great quality to even this day. So I'll mention the one. That is how do you pronounce
What?
Mega it's Power Rangers
Megazord versus Voltron.
Megazord versus Voltron. I was gonna say Megatron. I'm gonna say Megatron. That doesn't sound right.
My planet!
Megazord versus Voltron.
No, Megatron versus Ultron.
Whatever. Let's go back to Megazord versus Voltron. That one was everything.
Episode 75, back when they were like using like every 25 episodes is like a really big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And one other one, Scrooge McDuck versus Shovel Knight. I love the setup. I love how they fought, and at the ending, that decapitation was gorgeous. I love it.
I know some people don't like that episode that much just because it's like really like the only indie game fight that, or even it's just a half indie game fight. Only one character's from an indie game, but I know people have wanted more indie games and they want Death Battle to analyze them better than how they analyzed Shovel Knight. But yeah, in terms of an entertainment perspective, that's definitely fun to revisit. How about you, Blake? What do you like?
So mine actually might be a little surprising, but not that any of the 3D fights were really like bad at all. I actually would put quite a few of these 3D fights of this season in my top 10.
Sure.
My favorite of the season is actually the Shredder versus the Silver Samurai.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. Well,
It's a good it's a good episode. Yeah.
That's a good choice. That's a good
it's
choice.
a great episode.
Like
It's a great
outside of the
episode.
more recent ones where like a lot of hand-drawn stuff has been implemented more, it by far is one of, if not my favorite sprite episode like the show has done.
The final hand-drawn shot of that is beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it kind of goes back to a similar reason that I like Batman vs. Spider-Man. The sense of speed in that fight was just something that we don't get super often, just depending on the characters, because obviously not every character can just zoom around the screen for no seeming good reason. And obviously, banter is not a very strong suit of this episode for the sole reason that, like, they kind of don't banter in terms of that. Like, Shredder's a banter character, of course, but, like, in this sense, where it's, like, a serious fight, no, he's just going in.
Yeah.
But because of that, the times where he does let his, like, I wouldn't say, like, straight up just villain side come out, because they're both kind of villains, but, like, the scene in the forest where he uses the smoke bombs, and you just hear his laugh echoing, just... There are some episodes that, obviously, you know, they build the characters up to be menacing. That was genuinely, like, one of the more ominous, like, kind of cartoony presences we've had in that kind of fight. So that's my, like, big one. Obviously, stuff like, Balrog versus Combo, just for the fact that they treated it like a sporting event more than a fight. Like, that was just straight up, like, an event episode.
Balrog versus Combo is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I don't think that's going to change for a while. I love that one.
I'm sure whenever they, like, if they eventually do Mac versus Epo, if that ever becomes a thing, like, I'm sure that'll be a really fun, fast-paced episode. Something about this one and the general pacing and the hits just hit different.
Absolutely, yeah. Soul, how about you?
Pretty much my favorite episodes were already mentioned. Like, my most favorite out of the season, and still one of my most favorite of all time. Like, I did a tier list sort of, or like my top 10, and Power Rangers versus Voltron came to number 4 for me.
Wow.
I absolutely love this fight. Power Rangers was a big deal in my childhood. I watched a lot of Power Rangers Samurai, and at one point I just sat down and like watched all of the Power Rangers episodes, like of the old types. So this fight was definitely very special to me, and they did not disappoint with the animation, and it was just so cool. Even though the Megazord lost, it was just amazing.
Mighty Morphin was definitely not like my Power Rangers, but you know, I watched a lot of Jungle Fury and Overdrive in like Sunday morning, so I was definitely excited for that to a degree. Also, Matt Pat is in this episode, which is fun.
Exactly. I remember when they were teasing this fight and they announced the casting. And Matt Pat was first announced. Like, what? Why is Matt Pat in here?
Because they had like a whole video on that, didn't they? They had like a whole video teaser for that. I remember that.
Because like they only teased like just Power Rangers coming. They didn't tease like the actual like who's fighting, and then they released a separate like video of like who's like it's not Megatron. It's
Megatron again. He's infiltrating this podcast.
Damn it,
Megatron, get the fuck out.
Now I hope you say Megazord whenever we eventually talk about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Frieza versus Megazord is so cool. But for me talking about season 4, again, Balrog versus TJ Combo is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I absolutely love the aesthetic of it. And I didn't know Balrog or Combo, especially Combo. I didn't know him very well, but like I really love how they talked about the characters, how they talked about their accomplishments, and especially like TJ's, you know, like the progression of his story and like the cybernetic implants and all that. Like I was really hooked when I was watching that. And then the whole thing, again, they treat it like a boxing match, and like the background and the whole like set piece that they have, you know, that's super well animated. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. There are a couple others, because I was going to bring up Megazord versus Voltron, and, you know, even Shredder versus Samurai. I wanted to bring that one up, too. But anything else I can think of, I really like the animation of Sephiroth versus Virgil. I don't love all the decisions they made in that episode in terms of what they said about the characters, but in terms of the animation itself, I did really enjoy that, so I can think of it as just an animation at least. And also Naruto versus Ichigo. I don't know if that's really popular around here, but like I enjoy that one a lot. Again, for the production value. I know some Bleach fans are not happy with how they looked at that, let alone, you know, Madara versus Aizen. I know some people are upset about that one too. But for me, like, as someone who just really likes Naruto and, you know, was interested in learning about Bleach, like, even if Ichigo had won, like, I still just really like how they looked at everything. And it's one of their longest episodes, too, and that's when they started introducing the black bars in, like, the corner, because they really felt like we need to fit in as much information as possible, and I really appreciate that. Now we move on to season 5, and this is one that I have a bit of a complicated history with because for a while, this was like my favorite season. And it still has a lot of good stuff in it, but I don't know if I would say that these days, even without the fact that seasons 8, 9, and 10, you know, again, have probably like dominated my season tier list, quote unquote. I don't know, season 5 has kind of fluctuated for me, but I would say it's still more consistent than season 4, but that's just me. Blake, we'll start with you. What do you like from season 5?
So I think a real easy one that I imagine is going to come up quite often is Ryu versus Jin, just because that was, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that was just Torian's last full outing on the show as well. But yeah, the choreography and like just, I would say the pacing as well, but mostly the choreography, just because like with these characters, like with fighting game characters, obviously you're going to have their moves that are going to happen in the fight, you know, like the Tatsu or the power line, whatever, I forgot the name of it. That, or the red punch, whatever.
The Tatsumaki Senpukyaku.
That one. But, you know, they're going to obviously appear in the fight, but all the in-between stuff, because it's a 3D fight, you have a lot more freedom to just actually show them throwing hands. Like, you don't have to be, like, special move after, like, signature, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he can just be throwing punches, but it looks like it's Ryu throwing punches because it looks cool as opposed to just sitting there and jabbing and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously the escalation of going from the dojo to what I remember being a location from Ruby.
Yes, yes, that's correct, yeah.
That was weird.
For Devil Jin versus Evil Ryu, and then the finale with Power of Nothingness Ryu. Just that's another one of those fights where just escalation is just as important as the choreography because the characters can transform.
Oh yeah.
And especially because the versions of them prior to transformations are very relatively grounded. You know, they're still outside of the like energy attacks they have. They still very much focus on hand, like, you know, raw hands. So once the escalation starts, it's usually important that that escalation remains like a big factor in continuing the fight because that. At that point, the gloves are off. They've decided it's no longer just raw hands. I'm going to just throw all my energy at you at this point.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode a lot. At least, you know, for the animation especially. I think, you know, as an introduction to Tekken, it's okay. I think we've had better introductions to other series before, but I still think, you know, they analyze the characters in a respectable way. You know, and I know not everyone's going to agree with that, but I think I like how they stuck to their guns, and analysis-wise and animation-wise, I think it comes together really well. Soul, do you have any big ones?
Big one, we like already talked about Ryu versus Jin.
Okay.
Would probably be my most favorite or second favorite of the season. Second one would definitely be Samurai Jack versus Afro Samurai.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's classic.
Metal's like, damn it, I wanted to bring it up first.
It's a very special fight for sure. Just I don't remember the analysis a portion of it, but the fight choreography is probably like among the best of the entire show for sure. And I don't remember, but like wasn't the animator like, didn't he do it like animated like very short time and like on a day?
I'm pretty sure that was Louise's last full animation he did on his own before Scooby versus Courage, if I'm not mistaken.
And if I'm not mistaken, he was also kind of drunk when he decided he'd do it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I remember a podcast. He had approached them or whatever, just apparently just wasted and was like, "Yeah, I got it."
I didn't know that fact until Soul told me throughout the stream.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I had no idea at all. Wow. Learn something new every day. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's a very good fight. Probably the best death of the entire show as well.
He's one of the best. It's definitely great.
One of the best, yeah.
And good analyses too. Like, I never watched Samurai Jack, let alone Afro Samurai. I knew who he was, but only because people were suggesting Samurai Jack versus Afro Samurai. Whereas Samurai Jack, I knew him a little bit otherwise. But I remember watching the analyses and thinking like, wow, these characters are like so cool. I remember enjoying that as well. So the whole thing came together quite well, the animation and the analyses.
Two others. One is Ultron versus Sigma. Mainly just the fight. It's just very unique, and especially like the end death is what makes me like this episode a lot. Just the way it's just not a really like traditional death, but just a complete takeover, like
assimilated.
Assimilated, yeah. And this one episode, like it's definitely an unpopular opinion, but I still really like Carnage versus Lucy. Like,
I like it too. I definitely like it, yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Like a lot of people like really like hate on it, and I think it's not deserved. Like I understand like it's maybe not. It didn't really present the characters all that well, but like learning about the characters and like the fight, like it really felt like an unstoppable force versus immutable object. I like those kinds of fights, and like I just really liked how they both interacted with each other. Like people say like Lucy should have been like damaged a bit more, but I feel like that it was close enough to like I didn't know who would actually win, and just Carnage throughout the whole fight was just super fun. Like his characterization.
Dude, as someone who was
it was very funny. Yeah.
As someone who was like a super fan of Carnage, like I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the little dialogue he had. I enjoyed like, why can't I hit you? That's really funny.
Yeah.
It was cool to learn about Elfen Lied, and yeah, no, I was just really happy to see Carnage get on the show. I don't care whether or not people disagree with that episode, or whether or not, you know, they could have analyzed Carnage a little better. They definitely could have, but I don't really care. Like I enjoyed seeing him on the show. I enjoyed what they brought to the table for him, and Lucy I thought was fun too. Metal, how about you? I know we brought up Samurai Jack, Afro Samurai, but is there anything else you really like from season 5?
I really love Crash vs. Spyro.
Okay.
I really like that one. I love Optimus Prime vs. Gundam. And I think my most favorite one so far, other than Samurai Jack vs. Afro Samurai, would be Master Roshi versus Jiraiya.
Damn it, I wanted to bring that one. I was like, I'm gonna get to the end. No one's gonna bring it up. But then, like, the last one you had to say was freaking Roshi versus Jiraiya. Okay,
I got you.
that's fine.
I'll just talk about Crash vs. Spyro. You can talk about
okay, fine,
right.
fine.
I'll let you talk about Crash vs. Spyro. I play a little bit of Skylanders, and I'm not sure if that's.
I did too. I played a lot of Skylanders. That's why I like Spyro. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Spyro. I didn't know who Crash was until like the episode came out, and I was like, interesting. And afterwards, I actually played a little bit of Crash Bandicoot games.
There you go.
Mostly the racing car game that my cousin had.
You're changing lives, Death Battle. Good job.
Yeah. Throughout the fight, I really love the elements they use. I really like how they analyze the characters. I'm not sure how people feel about it, because I rarely ever hear about how people feel about episodes here and there. So for me, I really liked it.
Okay.
I really liked the ending. It was aesthetic. I like the shot, the angle, and I like the death itself.
Okay. I know not everyone agrees with that, but I'm happy that you enjoyed it, and that, you know, it got you into Crash, and, you know, Spyro kind of pulled you into it. So more power to you. I'm really happy about that. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about Roshi versus Jiraiya. I think that's so much fun. I know not everyone likes all the Naruto episodes. There are definitely some I like way more than others. There are some I don't like at all. But for Roshi versus Jiraiya, even if it's not like the most exciting Naruto episode, it's fun. They lean into the characters like in the best ways, in the ways that still make it a death battle, but makes it who they are. And the ending is so much fun, where it's like Jiraiya has him trapped, but not really, and he just continues with his punch and kills him.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I also want to mention, like, I like the dialogue they had together.
Yes.
And I love the line where Roshi goes like, "It's not like you wrote the damn thing."
But I did! Yeah.
I love that line.
So good. Yeah, no, again, like, there are some death battles where it's like, you need to put more of an emphasis on the characters than anything else, really. Like, for some battles, you really need that, and they understood that with Roshi versus Jiraiya, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, like I said, Season 5 is weird for me. Like, for a while, I would have said it was my favorite season. Now I don't know if I would say that. And Season 6 is kind of the opposite. Like, I like it more nowadays, looking back on it. Maybe I just remember, like, the really good stuff, because I know that there's not everything is amazing in Season 6, but Season 6 had some good stuff.
And it also has the most controversial episode to have ever existed.
Yes. No, but this is the good stuff, okay? And if you like Ben 10 versus Green Lantern, don't be afraid to say it, please, because we want to make sure we get all the opinions. Soul, let's start with you. What did you like from Season 6?
No. I'll let you take this first one.
You let me go first?
I'll let you go first. I felt bad last season, so you can go first. Talk about what you like more.
Wow, Soul, thank you so much. That's so nice. Okay, I do have a few listed here because, like I said, I do really enjoy this one, but I want to leave some room for you guys, so I'll just back you up whenever you say one that I have on my list, but for now I'll list like maybe like 2 or 3. Ganondorf versus Dracula is a masterpiece, at least in terms of the animation, but I also think in terms of the analyses, like it is so much fun. The 3D animation looks so seamless, infinite times better than Bowser versus Ganon. Such a good melding of Legend of Zelda and Castlevania for me. Absolutely love it. Also, if I can bring up another one I really like, All Might versus Might Guy. Like that's another great one for me. Another Naruto episode that I think is really good. The track, Mighty. I feel like I haven't given that enough appreciation on the channel yet, because that is also good. Granted, I also really like Strongest Alive, and that might be part of the reason why I'm liking Mighty more these days, but I do really enjoy that. And yeah, I'll bring up some of the other ones if they don't get brought up by you guys. But Soul, now you go ahead.
Yeah, so I think probably my most favorite out of all these would be Dragonzord vs. Mechagodzilla. The animation really does it for me. Like, and I really like the 3D fights, but I also really like the big kaiju fight out of it. Like, I think that also the track worked really well with it. Again, it's another Power Rangers episode, which is always a delight for me.
Okay.
My favorite part of the episode was when Mechagodzilla powered down and then the actual Godzilla like awakened. Like that eye shot was just like amazing. Like, this is amazing.
And when he pulled himself further into the stab, like further into Dragonzord's weapon, that was cool.
That was also really good moments. It was just a good episode. I do like Ganondorf versus Dracula as well. The analysis for Dracula is what I remember, with Boomstick going about like how to become like
the step-by-step process. Yeah, that was fun.
The step-by-step process, and Kill Luigi being one of the steps. That's memorable.
Yep.
I'm gonna mention 2 of them. The ones that haven't been talked about yet. First one is Johnny Cage versus Captain Falcon. I really like this fight. I like the setup. I like how Johnny Cage is going like, see that guy over there? I'm gonna be the next Captain Falcon. And then gets immediately punched after.
Yep. Yeah.
I really like the death fight was set up where Captain Falcon uses his vehicle to crash into Johnny Cage and then does the amazing Falcon punch at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really like I really like how they analyze the characters here.
In this scenario, Captain Falcon doesn't really know Johnny Cage. Like, to him, he's just like a normal guy wearing a suit. So he's like, only one can become worthy. Then starts show your moves. Just starts beating up this random guy. If he wasn't like an actual fighter, he'd probably be dead right there.
I mean, if you see Johnny Cage for the first time and you don't know who he is, you're just thinking, oh, it's a douchebag. Let's punch him, I guess.
Exactly. I'll just mention this. I don't know like how you all feel about this episode, but for me, I personally enjoyed it. Black Widow versus Widowmaker. I personally enjoy that episode.
Okay, it's not one of my favorites, but that's good that you enjoy it. Blake, you've been so patient. Please go off. What's your favorites from season 6?
So Falcon versus Cage had already been mentioned. One that definitely hasn't been mentioned. This might be another interesting take. Obviously, the Ruby fights have been interesting regardless of like which one you look at. I actually really liked Weiss Mitsuru.
Interesting.
It was one of those episodes that were very few and far between, where Boomstick got to be very explicitly smart about something, for one.
Gotcha, yeah.
Obviously, the death is not the most popular, but something about the fluidity of just kind of like the sword fighting and everything really stuck with me. It was good.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely got the movement right for the characters. That's definitely something to bring up. Well, we have so many like differing opinions, because like there were some other ones I was thinking about bringing up that I thought you guys were going to bring up first, but like I really enjoyed Ghost Rider versus Lobo. Like I thought that was definitely the best, I think, Marvel versus DC fight of that season. I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
I was wondering if anyone was going to bring up Wario versus King Dedede.
That's funny. That's a funny one. Some other ones that I like that I don't like as much, but like they still stand out to me is like the Mega Man Battle Royale, even Mob versus Tatsumaki. Like for some reason that one just stuck with me, and I don't really know why. I think I just enjoy learning about the characters. I didn't really know either of them before.
I'm glad you mentioned those.
Oh yeah, great. So that's the thing, like, again, season 6, for some reason, to me, like, yeah, there were some episodes I really don't like from that one, like, I don't know, Captain Marvel versus Shazam or whatever, but like, we've brought up so many episodes where it's like, yeah, they all have enjoyable aspects. Season 6 is really when it felt like they were able to hit the ground running with everything as a season collectively. And then we move to Season 7, which is arguably one of the most inconsistent seasons they've ever made.
Definitely agree with that.
And that's the thing, like, I don't see Season 7 as bad. I really don't. I think some of its heights are really, really good. But there are some lows that if we're looking at it as a whole, is not very good. But because we're just talking about best episodes, I do think there is a lot to talk about, because I think it has some really freaking good episodes. Metal, we'll start with you. What do you like from Season 7?
There's going to be a lot of mentions of this one, so I'm going to get this one out the way.
Sure.
Obi-Wan versus
Yeah!
Yeah.
Dude, I love Kakashi so much. I love him to death.
But I really enjoyed this episode. I'll let you guys talk more about it. The one I'm going to talk about more here is Goro versus Machamp. They had matchup. But they did a fantastic fucking job on that, and they had my heart pounding throughout the entire fight. It was building that up.
See,
so
here's
well.
the thing. I'm gonna say something that's gonna get me eaten alive. I think Goro versus Machamp is great, but I don't think it's fantastic. Like, there are some people that say it's like their favorite of Season 7, and for me, like, I don't see that. Like, if you love Goro versus Machamp and it's one of your favorite death battle episodes in general, I love that. More power to you. But for me, it's like, I think it's a great episode, but I don't think it stood out to me as much as it stood out to, like, so many other people. And that's fine. It's just, maybe I'm missing something. I do think the matchup does hold it back for me a little bit. Because I've said before that, like, I don't think it should be Death Battle's job to, like, make matchups good. I think they should try their best to have matchups that are good on their own. But I will also say that Goro versus Machamp is one of the biggest arguments against that. Because I think despite having such a bad matchup, it is a very good episode.
I know, and that's what I hate. That's what I both hate and love this episode for many reasons.
Yeah, no, for sure. Blake, do you have any big ones from Season 7?
So, shocker mentioning you, or since you just mentioned that, Goro Machamp is actually my favorite of the season.
Oh my god! Dude, that's great! That's awesome!
So it's for a couple of reasons. One of which, actually, I used to, before I joined the server, long before I really got into, like, in the versus scene, I did stuff on my old DeviantArt page, and Goro Machamp just happened to be one of the earliest. So after that episode aired, I was out shopping, and I got a message from my, like, best friend from college, like, bro, you gotta see the preview for the next time. It's one of yours. So, of course, I pop in, and it's, like, just Goro Machamp pulling, I'm, like, already popping off. I think if I remember, it was like my third or fourth one. It was like Sombra Spy, Dexter Jimmy, one other, and then Goro Machamp.
Cool.
That action in that fight, and the fact that we got another Pokemon was just so cool to me. And like a Pokemon done right, too.
Right.
Like, because obviously Machamp is just a Pokemon. It's not like a legendary Pokemon. But for them to use just a Pokemon in this manner just like shows that, yeah, we can have more just Pokemon-related matchups that aren't, you know, the poster ones, like the movie ones or starters.
Machamp is a simple man. You can do him well.
Oh, yes.
Plus, he's a fighting type, so that just means you get to have all the really fun moves to show off, whether you actually make them look like special moves or not. This one is going to be... I'm full of interesting takes today, I guess. The episode itself, in my opinion, was not great, but a highlight just purely for what it set up in the future, Danny versus versus Jake Long. Like,
interesting.
Obviously, the episode was, I think it was fun throughout moments. They had good moments in it.
Yeah.
And you can see them analyzed with something. But in my opinion, like, because of how few cartoon fights we've had, this, like, was the building blocks for, like, Steven Starr, for, like, you know, Stitch, Polnareff, for all of those episodes, in my opinion, kind of got their footing from this episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I find it a very okay episode. I was really excited for it because I love Danny Phantom. But I find it, it has good moments. It's a very average episode of the season. Because, again, it's a very inconsistent season. But I find this one to be, like, right in the middle. But I do think, that's important to bring up. Because I do agree, like, other than, like, Avatar The Last Airbender, there were not many true cartoons on the show. So it was cool to see that. Soul, any other episodes?
Goro vs. Machamp is my favorite of the season as well.
Oh my god, wow, I'm just offending everybody. It's not my favorite of the season, but it's a good episode.
There's definitely a few other, like, episodes in here that hasn't been mentioned yet. I do like Obi-Wan vs. Kakashi as well.
Yep.
I'm surprised no one mentioned it yet, but Cable vs. Booster Gold. Like, definitely, like, in the teaser after Goro vs. Machamp, they announced, like, oh, Cable's announced. And then they show Booster Gold, and, like, probably me and a lot of other people who is Booster Gold.
I know who he is, but he's like the one. His whole shtick is that this greatest hero you've never heard of.
Yeah, and like literally, like as soon like I didn't know who he was, like who is he? And then we literally in the intro, like they announced Booster Gold, the greatest comic hero you've never heard of.
Yep.
Like, oh my god, this is catered to me. The episode was amazing.
Yeah.
With Booster Gold's mannerisms, it's just so fun. It's definitely like you can take a character not many people have heard about it and still make a great episode of it.
But you need to put Skeets in there. That's like my biggest gripe, that Skeets is not part of the animation, which I feel like is a requirement. For those of you guys that don't know, Skeets is like his little robot buddy that follows him around and talks to him. You don't have to put Deadpool popping up in the analysis for Cable or anything. Like, I think that's kind of overdoing it, but you gotta put Skeets in there somewhere. Like, that kind of bothered me. But I do think it's a fun episode, yeah. One of the ones that really stand out to me, like Hulk versus Broly, as much as I don't love all the conclusion stuff, like, again, just as a production, you can't not bring it up. And like Ikari is one of my favorite tracks they've ever made. It's such a fun production. Also, Winter Soldier versus Red Hood, such a step up from Nightwing versus Daredevil in terms of live action. I really love what they were able to do with Ismahawk for that one. I love, the psychological elements they put into that as well. Like with Red Hood, losing his mind over, like getting hit with a crowbar. Like, I would never have thought to do that, but that is like so perfect. Flash versus Sonic, again, kind of similar to Hulk versus Broly. Like, well, it's not that I disagree with anything that Flash versus Sonic said, but like, I think they made a really good production out of it. That's what I'm trying to say. And Beerus versus Galaxia. I like that one a lot more than I expected to be honest, when it was first announced. And the one that I will bring up that's more biased towards me, and this kind of ties into the whole thing we were talking about before with like Spider-Man episodes. I really love Miles versus Static. And I know it doesn't have anything that like really makes it stand out against some of the other ones, but Miles and Static are two of like the most personal superheroes to me ever. I watched a lot of the Static show when I was younger. I loved Spider-Verse, and I loved the concept of like another universe Spider-Man. I know some people really don't like Miles. Like, they think, oh, Spider-Man can't be this guy. But, like, he totally can. Spider-Man can be anyone, And I love how the Spider-Verse movies have tried to, like, really nail that home. So I love the Spider-Verse aesthetic they injected into the episode. I love how they talked about the characters. I feel like they paid them a lot of respect, personally. Which, again, as someone who knows the characters well, I think they paid them a lot of respect. So I really wanted to bring that up, but I don't expect a lot of people to agree with me there. And now we move into seasons 8, 9, and 10, which is frustrating because I don't want to be too long on time, but I feel like these are the seasons where there are the most episodes to talk about, which is frustrating because we probably should have saved more time for these ones. So I guess trying to speed it up, but it is still more recent though, so people probably already have their own opinions on that. So, maybe we don't need to talk about them too much, but we'll try to speed things up a little more. But starting off with season 8, Blake, what do you like from season 8?
So one that I really enjoy, and I enjoyed the original version of this fight as well, but Link versus Cloud, the new one, was such an event. Like,
I love that one, and so many people don't. Like, I see so many people that's like, oh no, I didn't really like how they did. I think it's more of an analysis problem than it is with anything else, but like, I don't even care. Well, it's not that I don't care. I don't think the analyses were bad. I'm just gonna say it. I don't think they were bad, and I think the animation itself really shows how far Death Battle has come with 3D animation and with production in general. I love Link vs. Cloud 2021.
Like, there are a few episodes that I definitely think warrants the whole, like, rematch or remaster. Obviously, Boba Samus did. Obviously, especially this one does. There's not really many that do, but I think this one just nailed it on the head, how to go about it.
It definitely needed it, and it paid off.
I think another highlight, which this is definitely going to get said multiple times, DIO versus Alucard. Just a passion project, and you can see every bit of it.
Yeah, and I know, again, that's another one where people are like, oh, they did Alucard wrong, and it's like, this one I can't really speak to as much because, like, Alucard and Hellsing is not really my wheelhouse, but, like, come on, like, have fun. It is so much fun.
Yeah, just seeing the characters go through with really both of these fights, but especially this fight, just, it made it. Yeah,
absolutely. Soul, how about you? Any big ones?
There's so many good fights this season. It'll be hard to avoid talking about some, but DIO Alucard was amazing. I also really like Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I understand Goku Black's analysis was pretty much terrible. But like, despite that, Reverse Flash's analysis was amazing, and I like the Flash series, and Reverse Flash was very cool. And this episode is definitely like the best speedster episode of the entire show so far.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like them showcasing like their speeds and like their power, it was like done like in just the right way, and the mannerisms for sure. There's so many things to talk about. It's hard.
I don't even have a huge issue with the analysis shortcomings. I know some people do. I personally don't. And I think what they did really well with the analyses was like necessary, and I think they nailed it. It's one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode of the entire series. And Metal, what do you like?
I want to mention these two because they were mentioned a lot, so I might as well get them out of the way. Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash and DIO vs. Alucard. For the longest time, I couldn't decide which one seemed better out of Season 8 because they're both equally great in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones I'm going to mention that wasn't mentioned before yet. Yoda versus King Mickey.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
I was like, am I going to be the only one to bring this one up? But thank God I'm not.
Yeah, I love that one for multiple reasons. I love the animation. I like how they analyze the characters. Iron Fist versus Poe. I was a big fan of this one for the longest time. And when it finally came out, I was so excited. And I'm so glad they gave both characters great treatment.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then the last one I'm going to mention is Saitama versus Popeye.
Yep.
Yes.
I was wondering how that one wasn't mentioned before, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought this matchup was never going to happen. But when it did, I popped off my chair. I was excited. I was so excited.
When I saw it got announced, I was very confused. Like, I remember in my reaction video, I'm literally just laughing to myself because I was so confused of, like, what I was looking at. But then when it came out, it's like, oh my god, like, Death Battle, like, did you have to go so hard? But anyway, let's move on. Let's try to get through the last two seasons as quick as we can. Season 9, Metal, we'll start with you. What do you like from Season 9?
I'm mentioning all the good ones. Fuck y'all.
Okay.
Okay. Omni-Man versus Homelander.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that one. The hand drawn was crazy. I love the voice acting.
Yep.
At first, I thought this was gonna be kind of not a good episode because how like the stomp. But I'm glad they treated well. It was just a good passion project, in my opinion. Jonathan versus Tanjiro. I really love that one. I love the soundtrack. I love the style.
I love the background of that one. That's the one that stuck out to me the most. Like
the background fit well.
The background and just the effects, like the elemental effects for Tanjiro. Like those are the stuff that stuck out to me.
Next, it's gonna be Vegeta versus Thor.
Yeah,
that one was a long overdue project. It really needed to be brought up, and I'm so glad that it finally did in season 9.
I love how it turned out. I love it so much.
Yeah, same here. I love the analysis. I love the outcome.
It's one of the most well-rounded episodes, in my opinion, of like the modern Death Battle.
It is, and the last one I'm gonna mention here: Trunks versus Silver.
Hey, yeah.
I heard people had mixed opinions on this. Apparently, I'm not sure about those, but for me, I personally liked it.
Yeah, no, such a fun experience. The sound design and the visuals is like it is just superb. Blake, how about you?
So by far, my favorite of season 9 is actually SpongeBob Aquaman, just for a major reason of the fact that despite the characters we have seen from cartoons, for some reason I never thought SpongeBob would show up at all.
Okay.
I was fully convinced that, like, just based on the cartoon characters we've had, he would not have as big a chance at all to show up. Mm-hmm. But, you know, in hindsight, he's one of the biggest ones they've used. So, I mean, you know, by all means. For similar reason that Omni-Lander was good, it was such a fun episode despite the giant stomp of it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, regardless of where you end up scaling, personally, like, you know, Super Friends stuff to it, the gap didn't matter just because of how SpongeBob himself is as a character.
It's obviously 2 different cartoons. It's like in one cartoon, you're superpowered because you have superpowers. But in the other cartoon, you're superpowered because physics don't matter. It's very different.
Yeah, and because of that same vein, SpongeBob is not actively trying to go, like, he's not trying to go for kill moves, even though by all accounts, you know, almost any of his attacks could just be kill moves in this particular. Well, obviously, Aquaman himself is actually going for, like, he's trying to win the fight. SpongeBob is just having fun. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a couple ways you can handle stomps to where they're just very entertaining. I think that's a very big one, that you can just handle a stompy episode and it be entertaining. Just where one is not actively trying to go for the kill move, because that just wouldn't be what they do in the first place.
I know some people hate that one and will for, like, the end of time, but, like, for me, it just felt like they had a vision and they executed it exactly how they intended it to. And I gotta give respect for that. It's one of my favorites of the season. Like, I feel like I'm not making that clear enough. It is one of my favorites of the season. I love it. And Soul, how about you?
Right. So my favorite of the season, and probably my second favorite of all time, is definitely Sauron versus the Lich King.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
yeah.
these, and not because like I know of these two characters, not really. I did know of the Lich King, but didn't know anything about Sauron. And like, I knew pretty much nothing about what their power sets were. I didn't like know that this matchup existed. But like, just watching this episode, like they just does a terrific job, and like with the analyses on analyzing how like what their characters are, like how powerful they are, and like introducing like what Lord of the Rings is and World of Warcraft and all of the story and the lore, just how cool each character is.
The
like,
lore descriptions are great. They're absolutely great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I think it's one of my favorite. It's still one of my favorite analyses. Like one of my favorite analyses. Like SpongeBob versus Aquaman is also one I really like with the analyses. But back with Sauron versus Lich King, like with the fight, like I also was not expecting the fight to be that grandiose or that great, but like I was just taken aback at how amazing these two like clashed together, and the story elements within the fight as well. Like Sauron appearing as like this ghostly shadow, like his shadow is much more menacing than his figure, and then like him slowly taking over the throne. Everything about it is just amazing. I could go on about how amazing this fight is. Yeah.
No,
it's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think I didn't have as much appreciation for it during the time as I do these days, especially after Skyrim versus Dark Souls. It's like I am so on board with like these kinds of fantasy episodes. Like I think Death Battle has really nailed the formula for them.
I really liked Omni-Man versus Homelander. Magneto versus Tetsuo was one I also really enjoyed, just with the story elements. This whole season has a lot of like good story aspects to the fights. Like they definitely improved on that aspect, instead of just having like two characters that like they just fight that's kind of like senselessly. They're just fighting for like no real reason. Like that definitely pushed the characterization of the characters. They focus more on that. Like Tanja versus Jonathan Joestar, like they pushed the characterization with that as well.
Yeah, you guys have basically brought up everything. The only other one I would even want to bring up is probably like Hercules versus Sun Wukong. I love the presentation of that one, and I think it's a great, whether or not you want to argue if it's close or not, like I think it's still a great introduction to these kinds of mythologies. I think just having like the hero's journey kind of thing and have that being like the emotional center of it all, like I think that's just great as an introduction to mythology. But anyway, we only have one season left to go, and I know it's a big one because it's a great season and there's so many episodes to talk about, but we want to see if we can go quick. Soul, I know you wanted to go first. Let's go.
Yeah.
What do you want to say for season 10?
So probably you guys know why I want to talk first, because I have to talk about Bill Cipher versus Discord. Like, it's very special to me because I'm a massive Star Trek fan. Like, I'm still waiting for Star Trek to appear on the series.
I know where this is going.
Han Solo versus Captain Kirk. Yeah. So I didn't know these characters. Like, I didn't watch Gravity Falls, but like after this matchup was announced, like after the Champions Fall, I was like, okay, well I guess I have to watch Gravity Falls then. So I watched Gravity Falls, so then I could understand this, and then I learned that Discord was based off of the Q, which is a character from Star Trek, and
voiced by him.
And voiced by him, who I absolutely adore in the series Star Trek. Going into this, I was not expecting this episode to be that well. I thought it was coming out too soon. It came out in September, but like I thought, like even still, like I should have been more time to that. I was not expecting them to go so hard with it.
Yeah.
And like the references to Star Trek in it was like very endearing to me. Like they mentioned it a few times.
Tells Jean-Luc your new show sucks worse than Code of Honor.
Yes. I only say that just how special this is to me. Like I haven't even gone like how amazing of a job they went. Like the analysis portions, they went completely on board with. The whole season they went on board with like the Cipher wheel, and like the fight was amazing as well. Like they were very chaotic with their abilities. Like I could go on and on, but I feel like
they had like 10 animators for it. It's insane.
10 animators?
Yeah,
oh
like
my God.
I know, like if you look at the wiki page and you see like the list of animators they had, like it is crazy. And yeah, no, I definitely knew Gravity Falls more than My Little Pony, but Discord does hold a special place in my heart for the John Delancey Q connection for sure. Anyway, in the interest of time, let's move on. Metal, what episodes do you like?
I'll mention two of them, then I have to go, unfortunately, because I'm on the time limit now.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
The first one I'm going to mention quickly is Bill Cipher versus Discord. I watched Gravity Falls when I was a kid. I really love this episode, and I love the references it made. I love the animation, how it changes, all this, on all that. I love the battle, and I love how they treated the characters well.
Yeah.
And for the second one, I'm going to mention, let's see here. There's a good pick.
I know, like there's so many you could pick.
Okay, and I'm gonna be a normie here, and I'm gonna choose Goku versus Superman 3.
Hey, be a normie. I'll be a normie with you.
Yeah, this was a banger episode. I really fucking love this, and I was cheering. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, before this episode aired, I was on a VC with Nemesis and Joel, and I said like, what if the next episode is Goku versus Superman? And I got it right, and I was so excited.
Well, I had heard so many people saying like, "Oh, I can't wait for Flame Wars to start when this next episode gets announced." I'm thinking like, what on earth could this be so that they feel like they have to say this? And then obviously when it got announced, it made complete sense. And I don't blame myself for not having been excited for it, because I was not very excited for it at the time. I would have wished that they just didn't do it. So I don't blame myself for feeling that way. But like after it came out, it's like it feels like they always should have done it now. It feels like they always should have been trying to redeem themselves from Goku versus Superman 2. And this totally did. It's one of their best episodes again, which is insane.
I really love it for so many reasons. All right. Now, okay, unfortunately I have to go now. This was a great time. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conversation.
Yes, thank you for being here, Metal. We appreciate you. Okay, Blake, how about you?
All right, so yeah, a very quick recap because quite a few of these have definitely already been said. Billcord and Goku Man, pretty good. Yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Something I don't recall being mentioned yet was Guts versus Dimitri.
Yes.
Like, I think in regards to like comeback episodes and like redemption arc kind of episodes, this is like, I would almost say one of the gold standard, because like something about how Guts was able to get like his actual moment, even if he lost the episode, like he got such like a fighting bit of glory. He got to go all out even when he was defeated. Like he was fighting until literally the last drop of blood, like it should be.
Yep.
And one that actually don't see mentioned a lot, and I guess this is just one of my many interesting ones today. Jean versus Raven was actually a very interesting one in regards to like, of all the comic book ones, this one just seemed the most interesting to me, just from the power sets being thrown against each other, just kind of like from the characterizations of it.
I see so many people place that as like the bottom of their season, and like it would be close to the bottom for me as well, I'm not gonna lie, but like for me, as someone who loves both X-Men and Teen Titans, like I couldn't help but enjoy it. And I do think they did a good job of like talking about what the characters are capable of and what they're all about, and having the interplay between them and like their power sets. Like I did enjoy that for what it was, for sure.
Like maybe it's X-Men 97 on the brain, but like it's still really entertaining.
All right, great. Scooby versus Courage, I have to bring that one up because that one is fantastic. Again, Louise worked on that for like so fucking long, and it paid off so well. The whole like Asura's Wrath reference is so funny. All the cartoon tropes they inject in there is perfectly balanced in the animation and the analyses, as all things should be. Such a great episode. I'll try to come up with other ones that haven't been talked about before. Someone said Guts versus Dimitri. That's great. Also Skyrim versus Dark Souls, again kind of tying it back to Sauron versus Lich King. I think that was also very, very well done. Again, just explaining the games and having them clash together in the animation, I think just came together really well. And I have to bring up, Galactus versus Unicron and Stitch versus Rocket. I know not everyone loves them, but I know there are a lot of other people that do, so I don't feel unjustified in enjoying them. And again, it might be a little more biased here, but that's kind of how it is, right? Like, for some people, their favorite episodes are the ones that they are most biased towards, and there's really nothing wrong with that. And for Stitch versus Rocket, it did everything I wanted it to do. I love the characters, and what I wanted to see it do was more important than just, it was the best animation they've ever made, or the funniest jokes, even though I think the jokes are actually incredibly appropriate for the characters. And I love how they talked about like the Elvis and the Beatles history and all that, because that's a great connection that the characters have. But yeah, and Galactus versus Unicron, again, some people didn't like it. For someone who was waiting for it for like 8 years, I think it was amazing, and I can go back to it whenever I want and say that we have a Galactus versus Unicron to watch, so I have no issues with that. And yeah, again, there are so many more from season 10, but if I were to try to list all of them, we would literally be here for like another half hour if we were trying to talk about all of the ones in season 10. So if we didn't bring up anything in season 10 that you really like, and I know we did, I know we did leave stuff out, don't worry, we probably still like it. We can't talk about everything. But we're just talking about favorites as a whole. So unfortunately, Metal's not here for this, but just as a very quick thing to end the episode, does anyone have like any like a top 3 or a top 5 or something of like their favorite episodes of all time?
So I don't really have a fluid list because even my top 10 most wanted matchups changes around outside of the top 3 all the time.
Oh yeah.
If I had to really throw like 2 or 3 out there that like are my favorites of the show, Snake versus Sam easily. Bill Discord for sure. It's a toss up between either Goku versus Superman 3, which in my opinion is the true like new one, which I mean I'm sure that's a shared opinion for the most part, or like SpongeBob Aquaman, just for the same reason of like it's something that like you wouldn't think ever happened, but it's also something like that is a child.
Yeah.
Good kind of thing, you know?
Absolutely, for sure. And Soul?
Yeah, like I don't have a concrete list outside of maybe like my top 2. Like before seasons 9 and 10, like many of my top favorites would have come from like seasons like 2 and 4. But like after season 10, my absolute most favorite is definitely Balrog, which for reasons I've already said. And my second one, I also said before, was Sauron versus the Lich King. Like these two are just phenomenal episodes. My third one is kind of tied either between the Goku versus Superman 3, which it was very nostalgic watching that episode. Like some aspects of the fight, like they made me recall like back all the way to like when I started watching that battle, like in season 2, and like when Goku vs Superman 1 was out. Like I remember that used to be one of my favorites of all time as well. I guess another one to say was Power Rangers versus Voltron for like again very special to me. Like there's so many death battles that I've really liked over the years. Yeah, I can go on about like what my favorites are, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. They have like 100.
Those would probably be my favorite.
They have almost 200 of these episodes. They have 187 official episodes, and that's not even including like Excalibur versus Raiden and all the other ones that are like bonus. Like they have so many episodes, and it's so hard to narrow them down to just, you know, a few. Like obviously you guys know I like Goku Black versus Reverse Flash, Thor versus Vegeta, Goku versus Superman 2. A lot of the Goku versus Superman 3. Sorry. Goku versus Superman 3. I need to make that clear. I'm so sorry. No, but a lot of the Dragon Ball fights, you guys know that I really love those ones. And yeah, Iron Man versus Lex Luthor, Wolverine versus Raiden, Balrog versus TJ Combo. Again, like I don't have a solid list for this. Like Obi-Wan versus Kakashi. I don't have a solid list for any of this. But these are just some of the ones that I really, really love. But yeah, this was a fun talk. I'm really happy we got to just keep things positive and talk about favorites and all that. Thank you guys so much for being on. I wish I could say thank you to Metal again, but you know, for Blake and Soul, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And for everyone watching, thank you for watching or listening. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you have any favorite episodes, and I know you do, put them down in the comments, you know, and talk about them with each other. Just don't give each other crap for each other's favorite episodes, because again, what makes something a favorite episode is very personal, and their criteria for what makes it that is going to be completely different from your own. So share your opinions, but don't give people crap for their opinions. It's okay to just disagree. As weird as that might be to hear, it's okay to just disagree. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Best hopes to Death Battle coming back. Fingers crossed all around. Thank you guys so much for listening, and peace out.